Welcome to the Double Shot with your favourite cousins, James and Alex Fitzgerald. We're in the studio again together today.
What an absolute treat.
I don't know this version of us because I'm used to just podcasting in multiple lockdowns in a suppressed city.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't even be a metre and a half away from each other at the moment.
Oh, that's right.
Hey, what an Easter. Wow. It just felt like the floodgates opened and that we it just felt like we were back to normal. You had the Byron Bay Blues Festival. You had airports, absolutely chockers. I don't know if I know you went through an airport. I did do a couple of airport runs over the weekend there. Chockers, absolutely full to the brim of people moving between states and getting some holiday family time in. How good was Easter?
You did a couple of airport runs. Are you an Uber driver on the side now? Are things okay? We should know this as the managing director of our business. If you are looking for, we do talk about side hustles a lot on here, but obviously that was a joke. You've got many family coming and saying, I'm happy to report, Cuzzy, I've got, and you don't look like you do either, no hangovers. And I'm not talking about the alcohol-induced ones. I'm talking about the chocolate-induced hangovers.
Oh, tell you what, Monday was a different story. I had a massive chocolate hangover Monday.
Did you?
Had to throw out all the leftover eggs and bunnies last night. Just did a massive bin run out.
Stop right there. You threw them in the bin.
Yeah. Can't fill it more than the tank will take. For those listening, Alex has just walked out of the studio.
What?
She's disgusted.
Hey, there's children in Africa that don't have chocolates, and you threw.
I don't know. We
unbelievable.
hosted family, and people just kept rocking up with bunnies and eggs and all that. So we seem to just inherit I'm going to say we had about 12 bunnies and packets of eggs, and between two of us, it's too much.
Fair enough.
Got through about 8 of them.
There's a whole office here, bud.
Got through about 8 of them, which was no small feat, given that my wife's a dietitian, so she had about 1 combined.
I'm surprised you got permission to eat 8.
I had to go for a midday run yesterday. I thought it's just not good enough to go for a morning run to get rid of this stuff. I need to do it in the hottest time of the day.
Who runs? I
see you've gone to Mecca. Was it one of the mega stores? Was it one of? Did you go and check out one of the mega stores?
No. Just a regular Mecca at Pack Fair. And I know what you're talking about. You're talking about my mum getting behind the counter. My mum has little patience these days. And
speaking of side hustles, yeah. She's doing customer service for Mecca.
She put her glasses on and everything. My mum was trying to spell her name to the Mecca lady behind the counter, and my mum's name's Deborah, but she just goes by Deb. And for some reason, this lovely lady behind the counter just couldn't hear. There was a lot going on in Mecca. I'll give it to her. There's a lot going on. Music was blasting. My mum just had enough. She'd spelt the D-E-B about 5 times. Deb, D-E-B, Deb, no. And so she just got behind the counter and started tapping away at the screen with the Mecca lady. And so I took a photo and I just posted online. I think I said something like, trust me, my mum knows how to do your job better than you do. And I reckon I had about 25 replies. That's the most it's popped off because everyone gets it.
Well, it was only a couple of weeks ago she was not too happy with the unemployment rate around Australia. So clearly thinks that's causing other issues. And just to round out, if you were 15, that would have been like your worst nightmare.
Oh, my God. I used to be so embarrassed, but now I just laugh because I'm like, other people's mums do this too, so they get it. And if they don't, well, they might be a bit lucky.
Hey, what else you got for us before we do the what is fast becoming the most popular segment of this show?
We'll play it in a second. I do have one. Wake up, Nick! Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to say, hey, Amazon have officially launched their same-day delivery service, but only in Melbourne and Sydney. But I'm still amazed that I can order something on Amazon and have it in 24 hours, let alone within 8 hours. And they're saying they'll do it in 3. Mind blown. You need a hairdryer? 3 hours. You've got it. You need extra Easter eggs because handmade you throw out the other 4? Done. 2 hours. Done.
Okay,
amazing.
so that is amazing. I'm hoping Brisbane's not far off.
You're not that amazing. You don't use Amazon.
Same-day delivery service I do find amazing. just I still don't quite understand how they do it. Same day is pretty incredible. I don't know it's overly efficient in terms of carbon footprint and the like. Probably going to be doing a bit of wasted. I did see your notes there that was the carbon footprint seeming to be the thing that causes people issues with it. Now, by the way, we don't have sound effects, so we're going to have to put the segment in after the effect. So we're just going to roll to the stat fact. You're going to hear it if you're listening at home. We're not hearing it live, so it's sort of dampening our mood, Nico. But
the number one rule of showbiz, Kaz, you don't tell people. You just go along with it.
All right.
He just doesn't know showbiz.
So what do you got for us? Stat fact.
Stat fact.
The stat man.
Stat fact. Yeah. God, I love that intro. Okay, this is a good one. Stat fact. Not if this was yours, you would have classified it as a fun fact, but it's actually a stat fact. Stat fact. This is a bit of numbers and data, if you will, in your little bit of a gripe industry or world. Buy now, pay later. Thought this was quite interesting. A bit of a breakup of the buy now, pay later. 31% of people use buy now, pay later for clothing. Now, I've got some clothing could be essential, could be necessary. Others probably not so much. Maybe at the time it feels necessary, but it's not. 32%, however, of buy now, pay later is spent on appliances and homewares. Now, probably a little bit more in the lines of necessary, need for every day. So, okay.
That makes sense.
That makes a bit of sense.
That makes sense. I mean, you think about it, it's probably been being done forever. Like Harvey Norman have had pay over 12 months going for forever.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
Sorry, I just thought of the jokes where everyone goes, I'm Harvey Norman, and you're talking about their interest-free.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Knackers on the daily. And then the last stat, which is a little bit different, but a part of that, is that, this is quite interesting, 35% of people who use buy now, pay later hide their purchases from their loved ones. And by the way, it's typically males aged 24 to 35. So I don't know what you
Sounds
blokes.
a bit sus.
I don't know what you blokes are buying and hiding.
Yeah, true. I fit into that category. Yeah.
Donuts. Buy now, pay later. $4 donut.
Yeah. I know.
There you go. That's the stat fact of the week, or multiple facts within the stat fact of the segment of the stat fact. Thank you.
I liked it. I noticed you've gone stat fact and fun fact in one.
I knew you'd think that was
go.
fun. I knew you'd think that was fun.
I thought it was fairly fun. I've got one that I discovered over the weekend, and that is this. The France election is on right now.
Oh.
France have a president. His name is Emmanuel Macron, a fairly popular guy.
Okay.
Their system, very different to ours, very different to the UK and the US, in fact. Anyone can nominate, first of all, and you have a first round. So the first round, they've just done it over the weekend of the 10th of April. And in the first round, if anyone, like there's 20 plus candidates, if anyone gets more than 50%, they're elected straight away. If you can't get 50% in that first round, they go with the top two, and then they come back 2 weeks later and do a second round, just the two.
So in round one, if you get more than 50% votes, you are the new head honcho.
You are the new head honcho.
What do they have there, Prime Minister or President?
President, yeah.
You're the president. Wow.
So Emmanuel Macron, he collected the most votes. He collected nearly 28% of the first round votes. He's going up against Marine Le Pen. She collected 23% of the votes. And then Jean-Luc Mélenchon, he came in with 22% of the votes. So those three people have got, a fairly even split. Emmanuel and Martine, I'll ditch the last names. Emmanuel and Martine, they'll go to the second round on April the 24th now. And one last bit.
Hit me with it. Come on.
They're the same two that went to the second round 5 years ago when they had the election in 2017. So back in 2017, Emmanuel Macron got 66% of the votes in the second round.
Wow.
So we'll keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks what happens there. But the France election, Emmanuel Macron, I feel like he's a bit of a big deal in international. He seems to throw his weight around a bit, always in the paper.
All I know is I all of a sudden feel like eating a macaroon after.
Oh, dear. Hey, you got an awkward or cringe moment?
Probably just my mum in Mecca. Oh, yeah, sorry. Awkward cringe moment. My mum in Mecca on Monday, whenever it was this week. I'm still cringing. Because you asked me a few times this morning how my insane weekend was travelling back to the Gold Coast from Melbourne. I got to say, it actually wasn't that crazy. We got there 2 hours early. It was way too early. We got through security in 30 seconds. I've never been so early in my life. I didn't know what to do with myself. I'm just not used to it.
No, I'm shocked, almost pulling my jaw off the floor that you were early in the first place. No, and
thank my partner Dean for that. Actually, it had nothing to do with me.
That I can believe. Hey, it was a huge weekend. The Australian economy picked up $7 billion from all the people shuffling their way around Australia over the weekend. They reckon 4 million people have taken to the skies or the roads throughout Australia over the long weekend in Easter. They're visiting family, getting out for holidays, etc. The airlines have gone absolutely gangbusters. Virgin, 30% up on any day in the past 2 years. 30% more people on a flight yesterday for Virgin on the Easter Monday than any other day for the previous 2 years.
Feels right.
Yeah, it does. Does sound about right.
Yep.
Qantas reporting similar demand. A lot of people going to the Gold and Sunshine Coast, Byron and Cairns, apparently. And then the airports themselves, 90,000 people went through the Melbourne airport yesterday, 24,000 through Gold Coast and 58,000 through Brisbane. A massive day for people to be going through airports. I'm not sure why it was the Easter Monday, whether it coincides with school holidays, people returning, taking the week. I'm not sure.
Queensland's back today. Nads, your amazing assistant, her kids were excited to go to school today, so I know that. But New South Wales, Vic, I think they've still got another week, so maybe that's why there's the going on there.
Back-to-back long weekends too.
Yeah. You guys have got 4 long weekends.
4 long weekends.
Unbelievable.
We've got 4 short weeks. 4 4-day weeks. Yeah.
Hey, you didn't have the numbers for Sydney here. Do we have those numbers? The Sydney airport?
Could not find them.
That I would love to see.
That would be great to see. I'll get Stat Sam on the case for next week. The Byron Bay Blues Festival as well. I mentioned at the outset that was back. That's the Easter traditional sort of music festival held at Byron Bay. For the last 2 years, they haven't been able to do it. And in fact, last year it was cancelled only a week out from starting. That 100,000 people go through there over the 5 days, which, I mean, it's no Formula One 420,000, but 100,000 people going into little old Byron Bay is a massive turnout.
And you know what else is crazy? I keep flicking this around. Sorry, everyone. It's in my way. I've got Italian hands, you know. Is like I'm pretty sure there's a very low vacancy rate in Byron already too, right? So bringing like 100,000 people where like they would have all had to camp or something like that. I know that there's usually camping facilities, but surely not for everybody. Or they would have had to do the big drive from somewhere nearby. It would have been a nightmare to get in.
Or maybe the Byron locals get out of town for that week and Airbnb their home.
Maybe so. But you know what? I'm most stoked for all the performers, everyone in the entertainment industry that probably has, dabbled in bits and pieces the last 3 or 4 months. But, this was probably the big one for them to go, oh, I'm back. And how good does this feel?
I couldn't agree more. And just to sort of frank, I guess, the return to normality, we've got cruise ships now operating in Australia. You remember, I think it was the Ruby
Princess.
Ruby Princess was the really big headline. Pretty much brought COVID to Australia, if I'm not mistaken. 2 years ago, there hasn't been a cruise ship that's left Australia for those 2 years. The P&O Pacific Explorer arrived in the Sydney Harbour yesterday, and it will be taking off on May 31st on a tour around Australia. That industry, the Australian cruise industry, was contributing $5 billion per year to the Australian economy directly and indirectly, and was growing at 11% per annum prior to the pandemic.
Wow.
Not sure if it'll ever get to those heights again, but even if it's opened on a smaller scale, it's going to have a massive impact on the economy. So great, another great sign that we are getting back to normal and that the economy's on its way back.
I personally feel, Cuz, that the cruise industry will not have an issue. I think it just feels like people are happy to go back to what they were doing before, and they're not too worried. I guess maybe because most people have had COVID. I just paused then because I thought, I wonder what the percentage of the population is that have had COVID. We don't know that. Do we know those numbers?
I've somehow still not got it. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're not actually doing the 2 meter thing here.
Might have it right now. Who knows?
Hey,
all those airport trips.
Yeah, that's right. Airports, reshuffling, things coming back to normal. The article that you raved about last week, bit nerdy, but we did like it.
Ooh, I like what you've done there with shuffle. Okay, carry on.
Yes, the reshuffle. Well, shuffling around, reshuffle.
Yeah,
I think
nice.
that's the flavour of this podcast. Probably going to get a gig in
Great
the title.
reshuffle.
The great reshuffle. Interesting article in the. Hey, don't spit out your water there, cuz. Interesting article in the Australian. Massive article, actually. I don't even know. I've had to print it this morning because what do we digest to start us off? But basically, the crux of the article was how our demographic has changed, where we live, and I guess as a comparison to pre-COVID, our population growing significantly every year for the last 20 years. Prior to COVID, then obviously it was a completely different story. But basically the reshuffle being how people have left the capital cities or if they have, where they've gone, and how the regions have really taken over. And the
but
data
also
was released.
even within the capital cities, people who have shuffled within the capital cities,
That's true.
more towards suburbia.
That's true.
That were the two sort of trends, yeah. So
True.
So regions and then suburbia for those who've stuck to the cities or the cities that have picked up some interstate migration.
So you're right. I should probably stipulate. So there's that like absolute CBD, which was desolate. Pretty much anyone living in an apartment, a student, or anyone sort of like on a temporary visa or whatever, if you will. They have gone suburbia or they've gone full blown regional. So you're damn right. The regions, as we know, on the rise. So population growth leads to growth, So this is probably
top three, no surprise to us and probably, hopefully, our listeners as well. The Gold Coast, followed by the Sunshine Coast and Geelong. So we've seen those regions or regional areas that are big regional areas connected to capital cities that have really flourished. Maitland and Lake Macquarie, similar story in New South Wales as well. And then sort of you got Ballarat, which I guess, you could make a similar case for Ballarat in its proximity to the Melbourne CBD. So the regions, they were the regions that grew by probably 2 to 3%, all of those, which was significant when you don't have any population growth from overseas migration.
Yeah.
To grow by 2 to 3% when the whole of Australia has grown by 0.4% in that year or two is pretty significant.
I agree. And also this article does mention how the regions typically lose population or sort of have been for perhaps probably related to
particularly
jobs.
A place like Ballarat.
Yeah.
Ballarat would have been a negative trend for many, many years.
You would guess, but it did have a bit of a growth spurt, I think, based on affordability. But interestingly, Australia's population during the 2020-2021 financial year, so probably end of financial year last year, which June 30, we did grow by 45,000. That's probably mostly kids, babies, compared to 328,000 the year prior. So massive population growth is what we're used to. Regional Australia in total grew by 70,900 people.
4%.
Massive. And
4%.
And usually it's
huge.
Previous year it had a decline of 26,000 or whatever it was.
The other one now I meant to make a note to research this before the long weekend. That thought got completely lost. Probably
as soon as I saw the first chocolate bunny, everything went out the window.
Probably about Friday arvo. The Surf Coast of Victoria, where is that? Because that grew by 4%.
Or I would have guessed the Surf Coast is like your Ocean Grove, Torquay.
Okay, so
where's Mitch when you need
it's
him?
sort of like the fringe of Geelong, I guess. It's not quite Geelong.
It is a little bit further out of Geelong though, but that whole corridor is doing amazingly. It's interesting to see here because the regions are mostly lifestyle, like Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, Greater Geelong. Perhaps that does fall into Greater Geelong, like you said.
Yeah.
I don't know some of these other places, but like Fraser Coast, Shell Harbour, like they all sound like they're near the water. Right,
Yep.
Surf Coast is actually a suburb. Surf Coast.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the point I just spoke about.
Sorry, it's a local government area called Surf Coast.
Yeah. That's
Victoria.
what I was saying. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. In that, I correct. I'll do an Anthony Albanese.
We'll just ad lib.
I'll do an Anthony. People make mistakes, and I have made a mistake. Hey, but flourishing suburbia, and this made me very happy. Whoops, just kicked my camera. In the top 5 municipalities that grew.
The tongue twister.
No, I just rolls off the tongue for me. Yeah, there's other words that I won't even mention that I can't quite say. But the top in number 4 and number 5 are councils that we've been bullish on for maybe since I want to say 2014, and they are Melton and Wyndham. But most surprisingly, they're in Victoria. And Victoria, so what we're looking at here is Melton had a 4% population increase and Wyndham 2%. And yes, Melbourne, most lockdown city in the world. There was a big rush to regional, but also, like you mentioned, suburbia as well, which is in a city or greater CBD. So we're talking about up to that 40-kilometre fringe. Very good stuff. Moreton Bay, however, you guys smashed everyone.
Moreton Bay, Ipswich, Logan in Queensland there.
Yeah.
In Sydney, the Hills region and Camden, they're on this sort of outer fringes. And then Wyndham and Melton Vale and Wyndham Vale or Wyndham and Melton.
City, Wyndham,
and even Casey, another one down in the southeast there. They've all benefited enormously, up by 2%, all of the suburbia regions and 4% for the regional areas, which, again, is really impressive given that the whole of Australia has grown by less than 0.5% over that year or two. One last one before we take a break. I want to highlight something that we mentioned, I'm going to say 3 or 4 weeks ago when the budget came out and it was announced that there'd be 60,000 places for the first homeowner guarantee, or 50,000 rather. And we mentioned that we thought some Australians were hard done by because the price that you were eligible for, or the minimum price of eligibility, wasn't increased on 2 years prior.
Right. And we've had a massive...
Well, house prices are up by 20%.
Yeah.
ScoMo and his team have come out over the weekend and they've done just that. They've increased the thresholds. So Sydney was 800,000. It's now 900,000.
Can I ask you a question, Cuz? Sorry.
Yeah.
Is this a proposed increase if they get voted back in, or is it happening?
The budget will be endorsed by that time. Yeah, so this will be good to go by July 1. The government would have to go and undo it, I guess. And I don't think I think it had bipartisan support, so support from Labor and Liberal to look at the price thresholds. Okay. Melbourne gone up to 800,000, Queensland or Brisbane rather 700,000, and that includes the Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast. WA up, and they're all up by 100,000. WA and South Australia both up to 600,000. So all of those areas, and then ACT Canberra, massive winner.
Whoa,
up by 50% nearly. In fact, it is 50% up from 500,000 minimum to $750,000.
You know, like it makes sense in the sense that their median house price is just over $1 million, which somehow is still beating Victoria.
Unbelievable. In fact, it's beating Victoria by even more than it was at the start of the year.
Unbelievable. We're still hanging on by a thread that last sort of like $80 or whatever it is. So go figure. Overbid if you're going somewhere this weekend, please overbid. But amazing. But all of them seem to have had about $100,000 increase on their cap. So basically, guys, what we're saying here is if you're still going to be a first home buyer, you still haven't used your first home buyer, and you're thinking, I really want something that's probably a little bit closer to the CBD and probably a little bit more, but to get all those benefits, maybe the $10,000 grant and no stamp duty, if you will. Well, maybe, recheck it. And from July 1, you may actually be a little bit more in your ballpark.
Amen.
All right, Cuzzy, I'm going to knock us off here. And I've got to honestly say, these 3 sentences are pretty fantastic. So if you catch me reading a little bit, it's just because I want to get this right. But Anthony Albanese, if you're listening, the unemployment rate, buddy, is technically 3.954. right now. So it's very low. In fact, it's the lowest it's been since 1974. But the rate, this is actually a little bit of a fun fact. It's always rounded up to the nearest decimal.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
So technically, they're still quoting 4%. So we're technically 4%, but lowest since 1974. Now, this is interesting. The unemployment rate for women fell from 3.8 to 3.7%. That's also the lowest it's been since 1974. So there must be a correlation between low unemployment in Australia also directly correlating to low unemployment for women. That's great. It means a lot of women are working in the workforce.
Incredibly low.
It is so low. And also, as a comparable, for men, the unemployment rate remained, must be for this month, at 4.2%. It's the lowest it's been since 2008. A stark contrast. But I got to say, I wonder how they rate the men and the women, or if, there's less women in the workforce because the women's unemployment is lower than the men. So I wouldn't mind finding that out. Sam, the stats man.
And
mind getting onto that?
1974, female participation in the workforce wouldn't have been anywhere near the level that it is today. So it makes it even more amazing as a number. And then underemployment, that fell 0.2% as well. And that's an important number because that is heavily linked to wage growth. So underemployment, if you don't have enough hours or if more people are sort of maxed out in terms of their hours, that's at 6.3 or 6.3% in fact today. So that means that there is still a proportion of people who are employed but haven't got as many hours as they would like. So that's an important number to keep a track of. Again, though, lowest since November 2008. So even that number is very low by historical standards.
So, cuz you're saying if you wanted more hours at your work, say you work a casual job, is it harder to get, wink, wink, nudge, nudge? And no, seriously,
if you're working at Mecca and you're wanting some extra hours, the hours are probably around.
You won't be after Deb's come in. You won't be asking for it. You'll be saying, I want to work less.
and no, I guess to paint it in perspective, the underemployment rate was 8.8% before the pandemic. Now 6.3%, significantly dropped.
Interesting.
Done a little fun exercise over the weekend as well.
Honestly, your definition of fun gets more skewed every week. But I love it and I appreciate it, guys.
You know what? I was reading the paper on Saturday and I thought everywhere is all this talk about interest rates and people speculating that there's going to be these big increases to interest rates because that's what's happening in the US and the UK. They're starting to lift their rates. As we know, our Reserve Bank has said we're probably not going to see that in Australia until we've got wage growth. So I thought, I wonder what the wage growth is compared to inflation in some of the countries that are lifting their rates, and then how does that stack up against Australia? So I've went and found the US, the UK, and in fact, whilst we were preparing for the pod, I found New Zealand's as well.
Nice.
The US today has 8.5% inflation, wage growth of 4.5%. They are forecasting, the economists that is, forecasting that wages when they're released later this month for March could be up nearly 10%.
What?
For the year.
What?
Nearly 10%.
Hang on, is that actual stats for the last 12 months or what they're forecasting for the next 12 months?
No, for the last 12 months, the economists are forecasting. Now, bear in mind that, as we know from Nigel's experience, not always right, these economists, but that is what the forecast is. 7% inflation and 5.4% in the UK. And even our neighbours across the ditch in New Zealand, 5.9% and 3.8% inflation and wage growth. Compare that with Australia. We're very low, 3.5% inflation, 2.4% wage growth. So 2.4% wage growth versus New Zealand, 3.8, UK 5.4, and America 4.5, but on the up, certainly seeming to be higher in the March quarter. It just puts it in perspective for me that in Australia we're a little bit off that. We're probably going to have to see wages growing by 4 or 5% before we're going to see a 1/4 to 1/2% of an interest rate rise. So 1/4 to 1/2% of interest, it probably gets largely offset by a 5% increase to wages.
And look, you know what would be interesting is if the RBA, when they do increase, because it's inevitable, right? It's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
There's nothing to be scared about. Just be prepared. Do your numbers and don't freak out. Just have a have a minute, take a breath. They may not do up your 25 basis points, which just could be 10 basis points. We might be on 0.20.
Well, we'll get another announcement in a couple of weeks, and then our own wage growth data comes out later in May. So by June, we'll have some data, and we'll maybe keep an eye on that going forward. Hey, Kaz, how good has it been to record in person?
Personally, I'm a fan.
So much better.
Personally, I'm a huge fan.
Let's just fly you up every week.
Mate,
Wouldn't that be nice?
Of the day.
Yeah, if only.
Be a bit more loopy. You'll have some seriously interesting content.
The productivity around this office wouldn't be crash hot those days either.
Hey, it's not good for me either, by the way. I'm not as productive. There's too many people here. Too many activities. And by the way, your freezer is always stacked with super dupers. I don't know which legend is going out for that weekly shot, but I seem to be the only one who eats them.
That'd be Mel.
And it's every time I'm here.
Hey, thank you everybody for listening. Enjoy the short week or multiple short weeks if you're a Queenslander and you're getting a few more of them.
Tell you what.
Thank you for listening to us. Please recommend us to one friend. We love it when you do, and we love hearing from you as well. We'll do the quick shots later in this week. Have a great week. Enjoy your time up here. See you guys.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Double Shot with your favourite cousins, Alex and James Fitzgerald. If you've got a burning question or something we absolutely need to talk about on the pod, please write to us. Both of our emails are in the show notes. For little real estate tidbits and a little bit of banter, a lot of banter, you can follow us on the gram. Our handle is thedoubleshot.podcast. That, my friends, is thedoubleshot.podcast. Until next time, think of us when you sit back and sip your next double shot.
I was afraid you'd miss me.